Hi Taurus, welcome to your mid-December 2020 General Tarot Update. It's Raina here. So I hope you've been having a great December thus far and that you have felt maybe a little bit lighter than you have in the past, although I'm thinking about it. I'm always thinking astrologically. And with the Sun in Sag for the first half of the month, that's the 8th house. For Taurus, and that's hardly a place that is just light. It's actually a very deep psychological place. So you might be pondering some of those deeper mysteries of life, come to think about it. But anyway, speaking of that, I wanted to talk about the eclipse that is happening in this very house on the 14th of December, and this can be the phoenix rising from the ashes for Taurus. If you resonate with a theme in your life where you felt like you are in the process of reinventing yourself, this may be that trigger that ushers in a period of renewal. And this is increased or supported by the transit of Uranus in Taurus. That's going to be for several years to come, because that's going to also inject you with a sense of wanting to be a little bit different and not just doing the same old, or expressing yourself in the same way. So very interesting. I don't know why I'm putting these cards so high up there, but I'm using my old camera again because I'm waiting for a new cell phone. And am I the only one who's bought multiple cell phones in a year? I had a cheapo cell phone for 2 years. Almost. And I dropped it all the time and yada yada. And then all of a sudden I had to get a new cell phone. And I would drop it and nothing would happen to it. But finally I had to get a new cell phone, and then I've been going through them like crazy, where they last a few months and then something happens, and then it's really annoying, to say the least. But anyway, I'm glad that I'm able to have ordered one, so I'm grateful for that. Okay, I'm going to just pick one more card. I don't know why. Make that 2 cards. I should have quit while I was ahead, because I like the 5 of Swords even less than I like that one. Okay. Alright, I'm digging it. It's not so much that I don't like certain cards and I don't want... It's just that certain cards don't lend themselves to me to kind of cap off a reading. That's what I should have said. Although some cards I just don't resonate with. Okay. So the heart of the matter is the 6 of Cups. This is a card of the soulmate. And by the way, I don't have the dates in front of me, but Venus is going into Sagittarius in December. So it will be going in that 8th house. And the 8th house, one of the aspects of the 8th house that's also, in play is that it connects to the soul level. So the 7th house is the commitment, but like the marriage or the whatever, the ring, the license, the outward things, the commitment itself, it's legal matters. But the 8th house is a water house, and cups are water. So it's really about connecting with somebody emotionally, the deep stuff. So when Venus goes in that house for you, then you may be also thinking, I think it's the day after the eclipse or something like that. It's funny, when I said eclipse, it was 444. That's one of my... Now I'm seeing 555 a lot, which is really freaky. So that's one thing, astrologically that can connect with this of this is the card of the soulmate, either meeting somebody that is this way for you, so meeting somebody that qualifies as a soulmate, or if this is somebody from your past. And of course in December, some people may be traveling home. This is a card of childhood, so this might be somebody that you knew when you were a child, or I think adolescents would qualify too. So your high school sweetheart or somebody from the past, and maybe because of holidays and visiting that you reunite with this person. Or just hear from them. And that is something that is music to your ears, because this is what you have been wanting for a long time. Another thing to note too is when I think of like work situations or things along those lines, I think of something that you have always wanted to do that maybe you showed a talent for since you were young, and it was kind of your passion in life, and then somehow you got directed in a different direction, for whatever reason, or just got distracted from your true path. And in the past position, we have the Four of Pentacles. I'm always having this problem because of the my setup, is I'm always like having a hard time getting the card in the whole picture frame. And this is a card of financial security, which Taurus, Pentacles relate to earth signs. Financial security, but sometimes you see the way the person is holding on to his money. It can indicate greed, or at the very least, maybe over controlling that area of life. Why? Perhaps placing too much importance, thinking that it is the, main important thing when it's not, giving it too much importance. So when I look at those two cards, I see, like if it's a relationship, somebody who you really love, that you've always loved, that you've never stopped loving, and then the person who maybe was more financially secure or what have you, you just kind of fell into that kind of relationship because it offered you that, but it doesn't offer you the love that you're looking for. Actually, the higher message also underscores this. The King of Swords can be a card of the person who is very kind of locked away in their emotions. They're very rational. Maybe they're very intelligent, but they're not very compassionate, or they're not giving you what the Six of Cups can give you, which is like a very deep emotional experience. And from what I understand, the Six of Cups relates to Cancer. This is because it deals with childhood, children. That's another thing that this card can represent, is children. So if you have, gotten, maybe like if you were a single parent and you got together with somebody because they had financial resources, not in a bad way, but because you wanted your children to grow up without having to be deprived of that, you may have a very difficult decision to make, because you may have gotten to the point where you cannot do it anymore, where you just don't have it within you to continue to go down this road. And everybody has their breaking point. If you're doing it from a position of sacrifice, then perhaps it becomes more of a noble thing, and it's not as much about you, and it's not selfish or anything like that. But sometimes it can be very, I want that I want the money. I want to have that lifestyle. And also too with the Six of Cups, I mean, if you have come from deprivation yourself, then that can make you much more wanting money and things like that because you didn't have it, growing up. So it's hard to detach from that. But the King of Swords really is about not allowing those emotional triggers to kind of control your life, because that can be very problematic when you're it's kind of like almost doing it unconsciously, that you're just guided by or kind of pushed by those fears, and you're not even aware that you're motivated by that. The card that crosses you is the Knight of Pentacles, and this is a card of I'm reading this as a challenge card. So this is a card of the person who is in the upright position. This is kind of, I think this is associated with Taurus in the upright position. In terms of, I mean, it's associated with Taurus in general, but I mean, in the upright position, it's associated with having a good work ethic, really being motivated day in and day out to accomplishing certain things. But the downside is that the person may be a little bit too plodding. They might not have much imagination. They're just like, the materialism drives them to achieve more and more, but there's no real inspiration there. It's kind of almost by rote, doing something very consistently, and maybe, being very dependable in that way, but not very inspired. But this is in the challenge position, so this can mean somebody who is irresponsible, who's not, maybe not working, not doing it. So is this the person, are you kind of like in two extremes, where you are attracted to somebody from your past who is very irresponsible, and you're not attracted to the person that you're with who is very responsible? And that's something to look at, because sometimes people find it hard to be attracted to stable people because they came from a background where there was a lot of chaos, and they just naturally feel comfortable around chaos. And they can feel kind of bored by a person who's very responsible. And that, you could say, wow, that's kind of messed up. Yeah, it is messed up, but it's understandable, because it doesn't matter what kind of craziness that you come from. If it's something that you're familiar with, it becomes something that you might be comfortable with. And this is one of the reasons why we always shake our heads and say, how could he or she stay with such a person? And we see all the terrible things that have happened to that person, and we just don't get it. Like, why did she or he even stay that long? And finally the person had to leave because it got so crazy that even they couldn't deny it anymore. So what's coming in is represented by the Death card, which is that card that Taurus probably hates. I'm saying hates because not in terms of death, the literal death, but just the idea of change. You would rather have things stay consistent. And yet, that isn't how life works, is it? Life is something that is meant to change. We're meant to experience different things. And if we didn't, we would just be very stagnant. We wouldn't have much growth. And there are some people that live life that way. There's no question. And it's not to criticize them because they're doing what they think is right, but bottom line is that even if it takes courage to make changes in your life, you have to think about the bigger picture. And think about what you're here for. And, there's that saying, you can't take it with you. So no matter how much money that you're trying to amass or things, it can get to the point where it is excessive. One thing, too, I want to point out, since I picked that Knight of Pentacles, and I picked it in the upright position, so even if I'm reading it as a challenge card, I could be reading about the downsides of even the upright position. So in terms of being somebody who's motivated to earn money, that can be very good. Nobody's questioning that part of it, but it can also lead to, being excessive about it. That's the point, is that this sense of being excessive. Now, if you are doing work that doesn't inspire you, and if there is a specific talent that you have been ignoring, that you've had since you were young and people could see that, and you feel like something is missing from life, just at the very least, think about that, and think about if there's something that you've been shutting out from your life simply because you put a dollar tag on it and valued it in that way. Excuse me. And so this was the beginning of the cards I picked as the outcome. The first one is the Nine of Wands. This is a card that's about setting boundaries. So this may even be, usually I think about it coming from the outside to you. So people that tend to walk all over you, not allowing them to, or something like that. But in this case, I wouldn't even be surprised if you have to set boundaries with yourself, where you have to, be more tough on yourself when it comes to the kind of excess. Like, for instance, Taurus is ruled by Venus, and so Taurus people, and this is also dependent on other factors in your chart, can sometimes be very materialistic. They want to buy clothing and other goods, but sometimes it can get into the shopaholic tendencies, especially if you are emotionally unbalanced, if you're feeling empty inside. That may be something that has plagued you, and then what happens? You have to earn more money to pay for all those things. So it becomes like a vicious circle. And so by downsizing your life, or by looking at what it is that you really need in life, and not being excessive with your finances, you don't need as much, so you don't need to earn as much, and that frees up your time. And if you want to work less hours, but if you also, because with the Six of Cups, maybe you want to have children, and you don't want to put them in daycare, you want to raise them yourself, but you're like, oh, there's going to be a loss of one income. Or, well, maybe I'll start my own business, but I don't think I'm going to earn nearly as much money as I am with this particular job that I'm doing. And that may be 100% true. However, if you don't have the same financial obligations, then it's not that big of a deal. So it's kind of like a trade-off, but it might be one that is more suitable for you at this time in your life, because there might be a different time in life where something else is more appropriate for what you should be doing. So it's one of those things where it's not like a hard and fast rule. Maybe you already have a lot of money saved and you don't need to worry about that right now, but you just are in that mindset that it's never enough, and that could be what the four of Pentacles. And then I picked the Five of Swords. I picked a couple of clarification cards. The Five of Swords can be a card of some sort of deception that is occurring from others. And so if, for instance, you're with someone who is shutting you out emotionally, they could be doing something that is underhanded, and that's kind of why sometimes that's exactly how you find that out, is that they're either accusing you of stuff, or they are just living their life in a way that makes you realize that something has changed. And that's why I say with the Death card that you have to accept this. It's not enough to suspect it. You have to accept that it's probably the case. And with the Five of Swords, there can even be slander. There can be, if somebody is cheating, I'm not saying that you're being cheated on, but if you suspect this already, sometimes they will say to that other person, oh yeah, this person doesn't, respect me, they treat me bad and all this stuff, and yeah, I'm gonna get divorced. It's just, we have children together, and they come up with these excuses, but the bottom line is that it makes you look bad. And really, it really doesn't matter if somebody does that, because they're going to, they're generating their own negative energy, and you don't have to worry about that. Let the chips fall where they may. And the last card I picked was the Eight of Wands, and this can indicate like things just kind of popping all of a sudden. So if you've had a bit of feeling that everything was stagnant, and then things start to happen, probably, yeah, I didn't think about this, but since it's funny, 8, I was talking about that 8th house, which was Sagittarius, and then we're talking about Wands, which is fire. So yeah, maybe that is the catalyst. So middle of the month, where you experience new beginnings, and it just seems like it comes out of nowhere, and it's that rebirth period for you, and you feel the sense of like, hey, I'm going to make it after all. So hopefully this is something that you can anticipate, and that it will show up in your life. It might not show up on that particular date, because eclipses can have longer ranging effects, but in the next few months perhaps that you see this occurring for you, Taurus. So anyway, I hope that this resonated, and if you would like a look at 2021 or your natal chart, a combination thereof, I have different types of readings. Please click on the link below to see what kind of readings I offer. And I hope that you have a great next couple of weeks. Take care. Bye.